What's up, everybody? It's TGK back with another reaction video. But before we get that started, I did want to share my quick thoughts on this MVP criteria debate. Just real quick, right off the bat, I dislike how the NBA MVP is decided. It feels like it's always decided by Tim Bontemps, I'm sorry, and how him and all of his colleagues, how they create this, initial poll MVP thing. And if you heard Tim Bontemps talk about how the NBA MVP criteria is handled, it's a bunch of baloney, and I don't know why he has so much influence on the league with that. But again, for some reason, Nikola Jokic is odds-on favorite to win the MVP as a 8 seed, 9 seed, whatever. And I don't get it. There's other teams that are doing way better, but yet they still have him first. Like last year, the reason Luka couldn't win the MVP is because winning matters, because you had to have a top seed. But this season, Jokic doesn't have a top seed, and he's still number one. Like, they're trying to make Jokic the sympathetic favorite. That's why I made that video early in the year, already claiming that they were going to rob Luka of another MVP. Like, it is what it is. This is what the NBA has become. They just don't want Jokic to leave the league because, he looks at this as a side gig, and they're like, no, please stay, Jokic, please. We need you here. It is what it is. Anyway, we're going to review Pick a Side today. Pick a Side talks about this criteria. We'll love to see what I agree with, what I disagree with. It should be an interesting video as far as Nikola Jokic and all the MVP criteria topics. So let's see what they got. So enough for the fluff. Let's get to the stuff. And if y'all don't mind dropping a like on this video, man, drop a like on this video. Consider subscribing. And if you love Mavericks content, and if you love a Mavs pregame show or postgame show, or even a Mavs weekend podcast, I got you covered, man. Y'all just definitely subscribe to the channel and consider becoming a member as well. Anyway, let's get this started.
The MVP ladder comes out every week. I think as we get further along in the season, these are going to become more meaningful. They just released theirs recently. And number 1 was Jokic. Number 2 was Giannis. Number 3 was Tatum. Number 4 was SGA. And number 5 was Kat. I think
that's got Clay Holmes. Apologies.
The Mets?
That's got Clay Holmes.
Fuck.
I think having an MVP conversation right now is pretty dumb just because we're so early in the season. But let's just treat this as if the votes are finalized this week. We need to pick MVPs this week, how all the standings are. Basically, everything is concrete at this point in time. Who would your MVP be?
3 years, 38. That's a steal. They're going to make him a starter.
You stole him. Who, Cole? I'm sorry.
Holmes going to be starting.
Clay Holmes.
Yes.
No way. If I had to say MVP, are we back in best in the world combos, Riv?
No.
Riv, are we back in best in the world combos?
No shot.
Not a shot?
Yeah, no shot.
Talking about Giannis.
Yeah, I'm talking. I mean, there's only one person I would put in there.
He's just clearly better than Giannis.
And I get where it's coming from. I mean, you take Jokic off the court, the Nuggets are legitimately unwatchable. They're horrifically bad.
Oh, here we go. It's just funny. It's just funny how we fall for these things about Jokic. Jokic's team is so bad without him, but when they won a championship, it's basically the same team. Obviously minus a couple of players that they decided not to pay or keep, but it's not that much different. It's not like Christian Braun's a big drop off, right? But I just find it funny, bro.
With that said, I would make Jokic my MVP, but it is kind of boring.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's so insane. Even as an A seed, they still make him the MVP.
Understanding, but to not try and steer away and just try and sound different, Jokic is the MVP for what happens when he's off the court. You understand how valuable he is to the team. Now, what stands out is, I think of the plus minus when they're on and off, and immediately Joel Embiid comes to mind in that playoff series versus the Knicks. But you watch this season with the Nuggets, when Jokic is off the court, the offense dies. Everything about the success for the Nuggets is non-existent. When he's there, he has to carry. I've seen what's been going on in Milwaukee, and I see the improvement that Giannis has made to his mid-range, and it's really helped add to their offensive firepower. And, of course, now their defense is starting to click. You're getting help from your role players, but where it begins and ends is with Giannis. He's shooting 62% from the field. He is the second most dominant player in NBA.
Wait. Hold on. You're telling me the Bucks? Oh, y'all can't even. Hold on. You telling me the Bucks, who are a 7 seed Bucks? Oh damn! Don't look at that. Don't look at that. Don't look at my screen, man. I was out late last night. All right. I didn't get home till this morning. Nah, I did get home. But look, 7 seed, bro. The Bucks, a 7 seed, have an MVP candidate. Okay, whatever, bro.
NBA history. He is unbelievable in what he's been able to do this season. When you add the mid-range jumper to his game, especially at this efficient of a clip, you're seeing him be one of the best players in the game. One or two, whether it's Jokic or him. But if I had to say my MVP, I'd give it to you.
So Giannis is the second most dominant player ever?
Yes. Unless we count LeBron.
Yeah, I mean.
Okay, well.
I would count MJ.
It was Jordan.
So he picked 2 players. So he picked the Bucks with Giannis as a 7 seed and Jokic as a 9 seed.
No, number
Last
one.
year though,
Shaq
Luka
still
couldn't
won
get it because he was a
most
5 seed.
But Shaq is deemed the most dominant
Sure.
because he scored in one fashion.
I know what you're saying.
I'm going down. I'm fucking beating
very,
your ass
very
down
bully.
low.
Just you said
beat you
second ever. I'm just like, damn.
No, and Giannis,
Is
although
Jokic?
he's added, you know what? That's a very fair statement to make. I know that saying Jokic is
More
up there
dominant
for
than
more
Giannis.
dominant. I hear where you're coming from, but Giannis is so. I'm getting downhill. I'm getting to the
think MJ
basket.
is more dominant
You
than
cannot
Joker.
stop me.
Yeah. If you're saying in just one fashion, then okay.
That's
Because
really what I mean.
Joker has more than that, but still, most of his stuff is going to be around the rim.
But that's
But isn't dominating? I mean, I think what you're alluding to is just like a
paint
force.
presence. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
fair. Okay, yeah. okay.
Physically imposing was
Cool
a
with
better phrase.
I don't know. Why did they give Shaq the dominant tag?
He's both.
In which way?
You couldn't stop him.
There's
But
nothing you
I
can
don't
do to
think you
stop.
can stop Giannis.
I think it's stop the Joker.
I don't disagree. But
get
there's
what
so many players you can't stop.
Can't stop
That's
LeBron.
reality.
Can't stop
It's because he
Jordan.
was just
You
like,
know,
like, you know what I'm saying?
Giannis
But I
is
know
one of
I
the
know.
strongest
Like, he
players
broke a rim.
ever.
So
yeah,
the-
Shaq's won for a reason.
MVP criteria is an interesting discussion to me because I can acknowledge Jokic is having the best season of his career right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yep.
They are the number 1 offense with him on the court. They are the worst offense in the NBA when he's off the court. They are comically bad. Their depth is comically bad, and with Jokic off the court, it really bleeds into what the product that we're watching. But last year, him winning the MVP, I didn't think he had the best season last year.
I think Luka was MVP.
They gave Jokic the MVP because he had the best numbers on one of the best teams in the West. The Nuggets won 57 games. They were tied with OKC. The best numbers on the best team was really Jason Tatum, but Jokic had better numbers than Tatum, and they were also close to a 60-win team. Luka didn't get it because the Mavericks were a 50-win team, even though he averaged 34, 9, and 9, and he missed 12 games and it went 4-8 in those games. So it was clearly you saw that when he was on the court, the Mavericks, they didn't win games.
Thank you, man. I don't even know what else you could add to that. That was really great. Bravo. I'm just really mad that Luka was robbed of an MVP last year. And then people like Tim Bontemps are like, oh, well, Luka Doncic is going to be in the running for several more years. So, not getting it this year doesn't mean the end of the world. Like, bro, shut the fuck up. Like, these MVPs matter, bro. Like, and yeah, they matter, bro. Like, and like the legacy of people, the stories, the history of the game, like this all matters, bro. And to give Jokic that MVP last year when Luka was clear head and shoulders the best player in the league on a top 5 seed minimum, right? When you give Jokic a top 6 seed MVP, it's just like, y'all change our criteria. And this year they're going to change it again. They're going to change it again.
So last year I thought Luka was the MVP, and now this year I see that Jokic is the MVP, and he's having the best season. I'm not going to disregard that, but it feels like the criteria is changing based off what Jokic does. Like if Jokic is the best numbers or one of the best teams, he wins it. We saw him win it as a 6th seed when you had Giannis averaging 30, you had Embiid averaging 30, and yeah, what he did with the lack of supporting cast, you have to acknowledge it. So I'm not trying to rob Jokic of any MVPs.
Also, Luka as a 4 seed that season, numbers were good, really good. They were not comparable to the kitchen sink stat, right? The advanced analytics will win you an MVP, but Luka didn't have that good of a supporting cast either, right? At that time, everyone kept saying, "Oh, Luka, it's just Luka and a bunch of bums," right? People said it repeatedly, but that didn't work for Luka, but it worked for Jokic. Get what I'm saying, man? And Luka had better stats, a better record, 4 seed, and still lost to Jokic as a 6 seed. So, homeboy cooking right here, talking about the criteria changes based on Jokic, and it's starting to feel true.
I'm just saying the criteria is changing a little bit
It's
when
not
it
fair,
comes
though.
to Jokic.
It's also not Luka.
No, I do agree with him. Last year,
It's
the
not
MVP
about Luka.
was Luka.
And the reason why it's not about Luka, because yes, last year I think the MVP was Luka, and I
Agreed.
think he should have won
Last
the
year, it
MVP.
should have went to SGA.
I think
Hell
that's
no.
a great
If we're
argument.
playing,
hate
if we're
that.
playing the best player and the best team.
But I'm not doing that.
No,
I'm
no.
not
No,
doing
I'm
that.
saying like
No.
like when he said, I forgot, you said
Jason
somebody,
Tatum. He said Jason Tatum was the best player on the.
you
Best
said,
numbers on one of the
you
best
said,
teams.
yeah,
yes.
the Joker was last year best numbers
But
on
that's
the
the
best
thing,
team.
Riv, is that Jokic and SGA, they had the same record, team record, and Jokic averaged 27, 10,
no,
and
didn't
10
OKC
essentially.
win 60 games last year?
They won the same amount of games last year.
I fucking felt like they won 60
Denver
games.
and OKC.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
So it's like, but Luka like averaged 34, 9, and 9. Like this year, if the MVP discussion like ended this week, and this is the conversation we're basing it off of, I don't think Luka's the MVP. I think it's Jason Tatum or SGA.
I disagree with both.
I
I think
think
it's
But
Giannis.
why though?
I think
Agreed.
what- I
I'm
think
fine with
I
that.
think it's Joker.
It's a 2-man race in my opinion. It's Joke or it's Giannis.
I think they've been playing the best. But
How homeboy right here? Hold on, homeboy right here. How, bro? They're 7 and 8 seeds. Like that. It didn't work last year for Luka, right? So it's funny to me.
I think SGA, no Chet for majority of the season. They're still first in the West.
I can hear that.
Isaiah Hartenstein
Absolutely.
just coming back.
Yep.
SGA is averaging 30.
That's a good argument. That's actually a good argument. You can make that argument for SGA, and I wouldn't be mad because the man has gone without Chet Holmgren. Because honestly, Chet Holmgren is actually the MVP of that team, but no one wants to recognize that. Which, it is what it is. But yeah, I could buy that argument. That argument makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. It's better than just giving it to Giannis and Jokic just because of stats. No, winning matters too, bro. Like y'all said last year, winning matters too.
6 and 6 doing what he normally does on great efficiency. And then Jason Tatum, like I feel like nobody's really talking about the season he's having, and the Celtics are second in the East, only behind the Cleveland Cavaliers. All I'm saying is that I understand that Jokic and Giannis are having all-time seasons, but I wonder if they finish with the 6th seed, if the MVP will go to them, or if it will go to somebody else that has a higher seed and great numbers, because last year I thought that's how they voted on it. I thought they said, okay, the Nuggets are winning a lot. Jokic has great numbers. We'll give it to him. And they didn't actually give the award to the player who had the best season.
I
Yep.
will. And last thing I'll
Facts.
say, I apologize. I know I spoke
Thank
a lot,
you.
but the MVP criteria changed with LeBron James. Whether you guys want to hear that or not, you guys know basketball. It's the truth. LeBron James changed the way that people vote for most valuable player. I still believe that Derrick Rose has one of his MVPs at his crib. I think that James Harden has LeBron James MVP at his crib. And I think that even the 2021 where Giannis was the most valuable player in the shortened season, I think that Giannis has his MVP at his crib. They changed that because they were tired of it. Now Jokic is here, and now people are under the same impression, or we're just going to give it to this guy every single year. But since I'm a guy who says LeBron should be a 6-time, 7-time MVP, I have to keep the consistency the same. Jokic is the best player in the league. I can hear Giannis because of what he's been doing, especially given, like we've mentioned, you take both of them off the court.
Yeah, but LeBron had top seeds every time. And yeah, I think LeBron has a way better argument to his robberies as opposed to Jokic having a case for MVP this season. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Both of these teams are going to bleed terribly. But when you're the best player and you are the most valuable player, regardless of seeding, in my opinion, unless you're not in the playoff picture, if you're a top 6 seed and your team makes the playoffs and your impact is when you're on the court, you're the number one offense, when you're off the court, you're the dead last offense, that's when it needs to trump oh, you've won this award 3 of the last 4 years. We're tired of giving it to you. When you're the best, you're the best.
I think it's both. Like, my criteria, majority of it would be who is the best player in the NBA. Because as much as, of course, I'll sit up here and vouch for Tatum, Giannis and Jokic are on a different level right now.
Easy.
They're where they are playing individually and impacting the game. It's at a higher level than Tatum. I just think they're in a tier of their own right now. And
I just find it funny. Like, how though? And I know this, and I know I'm harping on this too, so maybe I need to chill. But how though, when you're a 7th and 8th seed, how are you impacting the season when you should have a better record? And it's early too. Denver can finish top 4 and the Bucks can finish top 4 by the end of the year, and everything will be different, right? But right now, I just don't think you can make those arguments because we're basing it off of the criteria that y'all wanted to make it to not give it to Luka. So let's stick to that criteria. The Mavericks have a top 2 seed in the West right now. Luka should be considered for MVP as well, with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics. Whoever's on the Cavaliers, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, I don't know who y'all think is the best player on the Cavs, but one of those players needs to be considered for MVP as well. Be consistent.
Giannis, I mean, Jokic is having such good of a season that we're just kind of overlooking what Giannis is doing. The fact that he's been able to actually have a mid-range jump shot this year, and it's like not even really talked about, just like, oh, that's cool. Like, that doesn't open up a completely different part of his game because we know how dominant he could be in the paint. So number one, I think, is still who is the best player, who is putting up. I don't care if you look at eye test, raw numbers, advanced numbers. I think all of that should be taken into account when we're talking about the MVP. And right now, it would be Jokic. The other, like, 20 to 25% is your team's success. Because if Jokic is having this historic of a season, but you're the 8th seed, even in a loaded West, there has to be something a little off there. Maybe it's injuries. There could be a lot of different things. But if you're not translating that to winning, you're going to get knocked down. Because, listen, like LeBron, for example, I agree. He should have won more MVPs. It's not like LeBron, the reason he didn't win MVP is because the fucking Cavs or the Heat or something was like the 7th seed one year, right? Like, he was constantly top of the East.
Thank you.
It definitely plays a part in it. But unless Boston or the Thunder do something historic as a team, I'm talking like touching close to 70 wins, number 1 offense, number 1 defense, like really going out there and playing some of the best team basketball we have seen, I would still give it to one of those 2 guys because they're just on a different level than the rest of the league.
No.
I think the problem with the conversation is, and I agree, I think team success matters. I think there's just certain historical moments can happen where it can propel you from that 6, 7, or 5 seed and get you an MVP. 2 examples: Westbrook triple-double, the Joker triple-double.
Sure.
You know, you want to do a triple-double that's historic, hasn't been done in so long. They can bypass it if your team is really bad and they know you're basically the backbone of the team. There's other moments where you have the LeBron fatigue where, you know, you've won it multiple times, but then you have this different story, this different player who, you know, D Rose, for example, team was kind of mid offensively without him. They won 60 games. They kind of shocked the world. You kind of get that OKC tax where SG averaged 30, you become the number 1 seed, stuff like that. The new kid on the block, right? So I don't think it's hard to really have a criteria, a set one. I think it really is just, what do you think is better? Do you love to over-exceed expectations as a player, put up these gaudy numbers, and your team is a 6th, 7th seed, but you do so much that if you weren't there, they wouldn't even be at that spot? Or do you love who's the best player on the best team in the
But why wasn't that the conversation last year? Why last year it was a foregone conclusion that you could even consider what Homeboy is talking about right now. Last year, you could not even consider it. It wasn't allowed to be talked about at all for Luka at all. That was not even a conversation that was allowed to be had. It was only Shai and Jokic because they had the best record in the West. It was all about having the best record. This season, now, because Jokic is down there, now it's different. Like, I hope y'all see the hypocrisy of it all. And I know these guys, you know, they're not the main reason why the conversations are like this. Pick a side. They're a dope podcast. They have great conversations there. This is not anything against them. Everything I'm saying is really against, you know, the main media, national media, ESPN, those guys who created these stupid criterias and standards of conversations to go against players like a Luka Doncic for no reason. But then when their golden child Jokic is a top 8 seed, let's adapt it. Let's adapt it. You know, but no beef with these guys here, by the way.
In the league, who's been putting up those nasty numbers, or or other factors? Like, it's really just.
But if I want to disagree, I'm gonna disagree because I'm gonna pick a side. You know what I'm saying? Salute to pick a side, man.
What criteria do you want to bring to the table? Do you think that brings more value? And we have multiple, like, in history, like even before LeBron. I felt like Kobe should have probably won more MVPs. Shaq should have won more MVPs.
Facts.
MJ probably is another one like LeBron who probably should have 8 or 9
That's
MVPs. Bird should have more MVPs. Like, there's Kareem should, like, there's always that when you get that at that level in your game, like LeBron is and stuff like that, they're always going to find a way to not to give you everything you need or everything you want. Because realistically, LeBron's been the best player in the league probably before like last 2 years for like a decade. It's been same thing with MJ. He was the best player in the league for like a decade. Bird and Magic were 1A, 1B for damn near a decade. Kareem, like 10, 12 years, best player in the league. So those top guys, obviously you can't give it to them every year. But I think for me this year, it's Giannis. I think just not only in the improvement of his game, but this Bucks team was not good probably like 3-4 weeks ago. And he upped his level. He upped his game on both ends of the floor. I mean, like you mentioned, Adele's. Him just randomly getting a mid-range shot at 30 and nobody says a word about it, or we kind of just like, cool.
What's Giannis doing differently? He's averaging 32 points per game, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists. If I look at his past, this is the most points he's averaged. Okay. So the last 3 years, he's averaged 30 points per game, same rebounds, roughly the same assists. He's shooting 61% from the field. I don't know, man. It's not much different to my eyes.
It's crazy to me. We have,
but the mid-range does matter, though.
Is pretty much, he's in the media. Like, this isn't somebody who's, not fond of the media, doesn't talk a lot, doesn't get all the interviews and the commercials. So this is a high-profile top 3, player in the league. And we're just ignoring the fact that this dude is shooting over 47% from the mid-range. This dude is still getting to the paint at will. The athleticism has to look to slow down defensively. He's still that type of guy that can, protect the rim and be that transition demon that you want him to be. The playmaking continues to improve every year. I mean, the only flaw in his game is the three-point shot, and now he doesn't even need to take it because that mid-range is there. Now you really can't guard. So I think with Giannis, and of course the post-game continues to improve, I think for me, Giannis, is the MVP. I can hear other arguments for sure. I think the problem with team success is it's so early into the season that team success is fluctuating. Because I think Denver right now has 13 wins.
They're the 8th seed.
Yeah, and Milwaukee's 2 wins below them.
They're the 5th seed.
Yeah, it's like, so it's like the outside of Cleveland and maybe Boston, everybody's pretty much right there with each other. I mean, do we have to find the MVP now for the Houston Rockets? Do we have to find an MVP for Memphis because they're at the top of the West? Do we have to sit here and go lie and say Donovan Mitchell's been the MVP because their team has 20 wins? I don't think we should do that. So I think team success at this point, still a little bit too early. So you really got to just, if you want to have this conversation, look into the numbers on a team that's still relatively winning. And for me, that's Giannis.
My issue with it is just the criteria seems to be inconsistent. Because I think the criteria should be simple.
I think that's what this conversation should have been about, the criteria, not making an argument for a player. That's what the conversation should have really been about.
Who's been the best player statistically this year in the NBA? And I feel like every other year, that's not how the criteria is. Sometimes it's who's been the best, but this guy has the best numbers, but man, they've only won 50 games. So no, he can't be MVP. Like, there are players that every year get disqualified from being MVP if they're not as high as a 3 seed. And now we see the Nuggets right now is the 8th seed. They lost to the Mavericks with no Luka, by the way, when Jokic was playing. And this is not about Luka. This is more about Jokic, because I think he's the one that's been dominating the MVP landscape as he should. He's the best player in the world. In 2022, he was a 6th seed. They won 48 games. We understand what happened that year.
This was an elite season.
We understand what happened that year when, no Jamal Murray, no Michael Porter Jr.
That Monte Morris,
Facundo
for Campazzo.
This year, Jokic averaged 27, 14, and 8. All these other 3 players I'm about to mention, they were a better seed. and they had better. They had similar numbers. Embiid averaged 31, 12, and 4. 68 games he played. Giannis averaged 30, 12, and 6. He played 67 games. Luka averaged 28, 9, and 9, and he played a similar amount of games to Jokic as well. All these players had similar numbers. They had better team success, yet the award went to Jokic. And I understand the narrative and the storyline as to why it happened. And then last year, I didn't think Jokic had the best season. And then this year, I do think he's having the best season. But now it's like, okay, last year, winning mattered. You know, you had to be a top 3 seed. But this year, oh no, look at what they're doing. It doesn't really matter like that. It's like, I mean, yeah, look at what other dudes did in their seasons that didn't win it. Like, I remember still when Giannis won the MVP over James Harden, when James Harden was looking to go back-to-back. And I'm not going to disagree that Giannis had a spectacular season because he did. But James Harden had a historic season. And the reason why Harden didn't win MVP was because of a couple game difference, even though Harden dealt with more injuries. Chris Paul was hurt. Clint Capella was hurt. And he was doing things that we haven't seen since Wilt Chamberlain. Like, he was on that much of a scoring tear. It's one of the best scoring seasons in NBA history. And it's not going to get remembered because the criteria that year was production and wins.
Cooked. And that dude cooked, bro. The host cooked. I think he should have made it about just the criteria. I think the conversation would have been more. It would have gone more in depth into the criteria and calling out the just all the inconsistencies of everything. Like I think that would have been an even better conversation versus trying to make a case for Giannis and Jokic right now. I think the MVP criteria conversation needs to be had, and it needs to be consistent. It needs to be consistent, and that's what pisses me off more than anything is the inconsistency of this MVP criteria, because I feel like Luka's been robbed of 2 of them already. Anyway, man, if y'all enjoyed that, it's been your boy TGK. Salute to Pick a Side, man. That's a great podcast. I love the format. Pick a side. Pick a side and stand on it. You know what I'm saying? Mr. I ain't going nowhere. Or Mr. I ain't going. Why do I say ain't going nowhere? Maybe because I ain't going nowhere. But Mr. I ain't going. Yeah, stand on business. Anyway, man, appreciate y'all tuning in. Consider liking, subscribing, becoming a member, all that good stuff. It's been your boy TGK. Catch you on the next one. We out.